You better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before. That's a very important element of all of this. If we get that. If you don't, and the Democrats are fighting it only because they want to fight. They have Trump derangement syndrome. If it was somebody else, they wouldn't fight. If you had a normal person, you had some stiff sitting behind you, they'd be fine. But they have Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah.
That was Donald J. Trump today, not mincing his words, urging American citizens, or even those around the world, to buy US stocks, predicting a massive surge in the value of companies in the United States on the back of a massive economic transformation, the beginning of which we're now starting to see play out with the first massive trade deal announced today between the US and the UK. We'll touch on that deal in a moment, but I just want to remind you guys, when these tariffs were first announced, from the outset, it was extremely obvious that they were being used to negotiate a better deal for the US. The intent wasn't for tariffs to remain in place at identical levels permanently. That would almost certainly ensure an economic implosion in the United States, business after business going bankrupt, closing its doors, and run directly counter to the legacy that Donald J. Trump wishes to leave in his second term, which is to usher in an era of safety, opportunity, and prosperity in the United States. An enduring legacy, mind you, that will last well beyond his 4-year term. This is the first of many deals, and I can't predict what investors are going to do, but I can guess, because it's quite clear that generally speaking, most investors, and that includes retail investors, institutional investors, you name it, in general, investors hate uncertainty. We saw widespread panic in stock markets as soon as Trump announces reciprocal tariffs, again, as a temporary negotiating tool to get a better deal for the US. And I warned people at the time repeatedly, these won't stay in place at these levels. They are a tool to apply pressure to bring other nations to the table to negotiate with the United States for a better deal for the US consumer, US citizen, US taxpayer, and that is exactly what's happening. This is the same guy, by the way, who wrote, well, probably via a ghostwriter, The Art of the Deal, which I've read. In fact, just about everybody who was talking about Trump and his negotiating abilities and the tariffs probably should have read that before opening their mouths. Many clearly did not. So whether or not Trump will be successful, he certainly made his intent extremely clear. A booming economy and prosperity for the United States. And if he pulls that off, his prediction regarding a major increase in equity values in the US is likely to be absolutely on point. Of course, I would never give investment advice, but Trump did. Make of that what you will.
Senator Schumer's become a Palestinian. Welcome. I don't know when they're going to give him the ceremony, whatever the ceremony may be. It's terrible what's happened to the Democrats. So very, very important element of everything, of what we're doing. Unrelated to today, but related in the sense that we'll do, if that passes, we'll do even more business with the UK. We'll have so much.
The live announcement was posted on X, a video stream of the call between Donald Trump and the first of many countries who'll be announcing newly negotiated trade terms. Already 12.5 million views on this. Just think for a moment how absurd that is. The level of interest in what's going on here. Trump's Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, legendary dude, by the way, you should learn his story, an absolute legend, posts the too long didn't listen. First, his caption, what a historic day. President Trump promised to restore fair and balance in trade, and we are delivering. Howard's so excited, I think he meant fairness there. Now the 6th largest economy in the world is open for business to our producers. There's so much more to come. So check this out. UK was previously imposing tariffs on US-based goods, 5.1%. Not outrageously high, but you know what they're at now? 1.8%. This means US ethanol, beef, cereals, fruits, vegetables, animal feed, tobacco, soft drinks, shellfish, textiles, chemicals, machinery, and loads more can flow into the UK and cop just a 1.8% tariff. Basically nothing. We're also now seeing the first signs of the External Revenue Service. This just, by the way, goes to show the power, the leverage that the United States has. Check this out. UK tariffs have gone from 5.1 to 1.8 on US goods. But now, as part of this deal, US tariffs on goods from the UK, which were previously, prior to the reciprocation, 3.4%, now 10. Now, call me crazy, but this looks like an astonishingly good deal for the United States. This is going to create a huge new source of increased revenue to pay down government debt, blah, blah, blah. Massive win. It may look a little lopsided, seems very unfair to the UK, but the whole point is the US has a huge amount of leverage. This is an insight into the negotiating abilities of the entire team. And funnily enough, I might add, on this call, there was a moment when the representatives from the UK literally took a moment to praise the US, aka Trump's team, for their negotiation. So we're taking a moment to let that sink in. This is the final deal. And during the announcement, the UK, who obviously, 10% versus 1.8, hello, specifically took a moment. Is it okay if could we just please praise your team for their negotiation? Like, hello, that's crazy stuff. My point here, this is the first extremely strong signal relating to these tariffs, which were put in place initially to negotiate and now to produce deals like this that benefit the US. The strategy will work. They're now estimating this deal will bring in an additional $6 billion in external revenue from the increased tariff on goods from the UK into the US per year. And US producers of these goods and others have now unlocked about $5 billion of additional export revenue. Now think about this from a business point of view. If you're a company in the United States that produces products, you're now tapped into a massive additional opportunity, $5 billion. This is just from the UK deal. And the government in the US is going to bring in another $6-ish billion a year. Multiply this out by the number of other countries around the world that have come to the table that are negotiating. Trump wasn't fucking around when he said go buy stocks. They're essentially going to moon. The reason is this. Multiply all these deals out, country after country, region after region. The long and short of it, US producers of many different goods are going to have an expanded market. US government's going to have additional tax revenue via tariffs, so they're not taxing their own citizens, but goods coming in, hence the external revenue service. Business will be booming. There'll be jobs growth, wages growth. This will trickle down. People will feel it. More spending within the US, so people feel like they can afford to. This is a really big sign of things to come. And let me be clear, this is the first of many deals we're going to hear about in the coming days, weeks, and months. And the more of these deals we hear about, the more certainty investors gain, the less panicky they become. Now, if you'll recall, Trump was mentioning those folks suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, which, by the way, is a truly fascinating psychological disorder. Like, it's a real thing. I thought this was an amazing example. Jen Psaki, formerly the White House press secretary until she got replaced by somebody who ticked more boxes under the Biden admin. Well, let's see what she had to say on her show last night, a matter of hours before this first of many trade deals was announced.
So it's been more than a month, if you can believe it, since Donald Trump announced his sweeping and pretty ridiculous tariffs. But Mr. Art of the Deal, as he calls himself, has not yet struck a single trade deal, not a single one, with any single country.
The arrogance to deride Trump's tariffs as ridiculous, to mock as if they weren't brilliant negotiating tactics, and to imply that, look, they haven't even got a single deal announced yet. And this is the epitome of Trump derangement syndrome mixed with hubris. How embarrassing for Jen. Most embarrassing of all is this went to air after Scott Bessent in the Trump admin had already confirmed again on the record, having previously said earlier in the week, and then being asked again. There are over a dozen countries in current negotiations with the Trump administration on trade as a result of these tariffs. How could this moron not have seen a deal coming around the corner? It boggles the mind how quickly people were to attack Trump's tactics. You may not understand, but the amount of derision from absolute know-nothings, off the charts. The narrative from the entire left-leaning media, Trump doesn't know what he's doing, this isn't going to work, these are insane, he's going to destroy the economy, blah, 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 blah. And of course, there'll be no mention of these awkward attempts to mock Trump or his negotiating tools in the coming weeks and months as the deals roll in. They'll just shut the fuck up and pretend it never happened. Now, there's an additional narrative that I can already see coming. It's already starting, by the way. Here's what's going to happen, right? Trump is going to negotiate dozens of phenomenal trade deals that massively benefit the US. And the copers and the haters are then going to say, well, Trump didn't know what the fuck he was doing. It's just magic that somehow all these amazing deals ended up negotiated at the end of it, but he totally was just making it up as he goes and doesn't know what he was doing, and it was total shambles. To these people, I have one thing to say. The only thing that matters are the results produced. So shut the fuck up. Thank you. And I do mean that. The results are all that matters. All the armchair Einsteins sharing their opinions don't have all the information. The only thing that counts are the end results. So I'm telling you now, watch as the haters and the copers cope. After the fact, after a slew of incredible deals are negotiated, they just say, well, that was just lucky. He still didn't know what he was doing. It's just totally lucky. Yeah, you know, the guy that negotiated credible deals throughout his real estate career, stuff that nobody else could have done. Literally. Well, they would have. Made billions of dollars in real estate, negotiating incredible deals. Had #1 primetime television show, The Apprentice, for like a decade straight, and then negotiated his way to becoming the president of the United States twice. But don't worry, he knows nothing about negotiating. I really enjoy negotiating, and I really respect and admire others who can negotiate a great deal as well. I'm going to give a little bit of personal anecdote or two just to illustrate this point. Because it's important to understand that in life, you do not get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. So let's rewind the clock. many years ago. My final year of study, having already negotiated my way out of attending many classes, probably missed 35+% of my classes in those first few years. How? Because I was already working and applying the things I was learning in class and after hours teaching myself to do real jobs for real clients in the real world, making real money. So I was easily able to negotiate non-attendance of certain classes because I knew the material, because I could demonstrate, quote, recognition of prior learning. I have to decide which path to take in my studies, option A or option B, to specialize in a certain subfield. Studied design at the time. Option A was to specialize in print. Option B was to specialize in digital, e.g. online, blah, blah, blah. Now, obviously, I'm not stupid. I knew that print was a dying industry, so obviously I'm going to go for digital, get more of those skills. However, there was one particular class offered only in print that would have been essential no matter which path I were taking. And it wasn't an option if I picked digital. This was truly outrageous. And I made this point known. I walked into the equivalent of the college campus administrator's office and pointed out how fucking absurd this was. I dropped a few F-bombs. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. You guys are retarded. Whoever designed this curriculum's a moron. How the fuck can you possibly not offer this option on this path? Are you trying to impede us in our careers? What the fuck? One of my teachers happened to be in the same office and heard this discussion and essentially afterwards followed me out and said, listen, calm the fuck down. We can sort this out. You know what ends up happening? We negotiate and she offers, I'm not kidding by the way, to allow me to attend her classes next year teaching the course that wasn't going to be offered to me under the proviso that I don't take any of her class time, e.g. don't ask questions, but I never needed to. She would mark my assignments and give me feedback outside of teaching hours if I would assist her students when they had questions if I were able to answer them, because she knew that I knew lots of things. Next minute, we have a deal. And of course, imagine how awkward that was when her class sees me turn up, guy that hasn't been attending any of the other classes in this path, just for this one special course. Why the fuck is he here? Now, for what it's worth, I learned a lot in class, really appreciate that incredible opportunity. Kind of unheard of, a teacher volunteering their time to teach somebody outside of their class hours. I mean, I was allowed to sit in the classes and listen, and then to teach her students when possible if they had a question about something I could help with, just to help her time. That was my end of the deal. In exchange, she takes her own time after hours to go through my work, my assignments, to give me feedback, etc. Bizarre stuff, but this actually happened. But wait, there's more. That final year of study I didn't actually technically complete because prior to then I realised that while my, let's just be honest, fairly mid-wit classmates were striving to finish their course, I could start looking for jobs, just get hired before I'd even graduated, which is actually what happened. I doubled up on that. So I started working part-time for a really cool guy, very entrepreneurial, very smart guy, very switched on, total overachiever. Became a little bit of an issue. Had to start not attending all my classes, and I managed to once again negotiate a recognition of prior learning and technically complete the course without actually attending the classes if I could show that I was doing equivalent work in a paid position, which is what ended up happening. This was a part-time job, probably like 20 or so hours a week. But while I'm doing this roughly 20-hour-a-week job, which means I can't attend most days on campus, I then apply for another part-time job and get that as well. And now suddenly I've got 5 days a week where I can't be on campus. I'm like, I literally can't attend any more classes at all for the last 4, 5, 6 months of the year. Yet I still graduated. But wait, there's more. So while I'm at this first job, part-time, about 20 hours a week, most people are working, actually everyone that was working there was getting paid by the hour to do certain projects. I realized that I could get the same work done in a fraction of the time and talk to the guy that was running the place who'd hired me and say, look, bro, can I just get paid per project? This is fucked, man. I'm doing these so fast. He said, yeah, that's fair. So guess what? I was the only person there out of probably 15 or 20 people who was getting paid per project, not per hour, flying through work. And then I also ended up working on a bunch of other projects that none of the people who were hired, including me originally, were actually hired for because he saw there was some opportunity there. But wait, there's more. I was also competent enough that I didn't need constant supervision. So I also negotiated not to have to turn up to the fucking office, except when meeting to discuss a final project. So of course, yeah, you're going to know how that ended, right? Save myself an hour each way to get to and from the office, working this part-time job, getting paid per project instead of per hour. Not a great way to make friends with your colleagues, but a very, very effective way of advancing your career. And the final example, I could go on for days, but I just want to illustrate the point because in life, again, you get not what you deserve, but what you negotiate. There was some overlap between this part-time job and another part-time job that I got, which then became a full-time job, so I had to leave the first part-time job. At this first full-time job, my first ever full-time job, which I began working before I'd technically graduated, but got the recognition of prior learning, so all good. I realized, hang on a minute, if I'm working 5 days a week, how the fuck am I supposed to do life shit? Like, what if I need to go to the dentist or this or that, or blah, blah, blah. I had a lot of other little side businesses and things going on as well, so I did need a bit of time. So I told the guy that had hired me, when I transitioned from like 3 days a week until 5 days a week, I said, I'm going to need some time off per week, so here's what we're going to do. I worked out, I did the numbers and figured out if I shaved my 1 hour lunch breaks down by roughly 20 minutes per day, it was a little bit less than that, somewhere around there, then once per month, I would accrue an entire additional day that I could take as a rostered day off. So I give myself 1 day a month where I didn't need to turn up to work by shaving about 20 minutes off my hourly lunch break every day. Now, this was a preposterous proposal, but I was willing to walk away from this job, and I told him, look, I'm happy to go somewhere that will offer this arrangement if you're not willing to do it. It's totally fine by me, but I'm going to need this day off, and I want to be taken out of my annual leave. Well, do you know how that ended, right? I got the deal. Custom contract that literally allowed me to have 40-ish minute lunch breaks instead of an hour. Once per month, I get a day off. Many future employees were not super fans of discovering that I'd negotiated that deal, but ain't my fault that I can negotiate, is it? Now, the only reason I've run through these anecdotes is just to, again, remind everybody the power of negotiating and my interest in this particular subject matter. So when I see someone like Trump impose extremely high, but entirely reciprocal tariffs, I immediately think massive leverage. I don't think, oh my God, he's going to destroy the economy. These are permanent tariffs that will stay at these levels forever. Oh my God, he doesn't understand what he's doing. I think, God damn, this is genius. Squeeze them by the balls. They'll only be able to take it for so long before they come crawling and wincing in pain to the negotiating table to beg for a better deal. Instead of mocking and deriding, I think, damn, this motherfucker is doing it again. Instead of panicking and being fearful of the outcome, I go, well, obviously he's going to apply pressure, preferentially bring him to the table based on how quickly they either dropped tariffs or said, hey, sir, we'd like to talk. Negotiate deal after deal after deal after deal in the best interest of the US and the US economy. He'll be mocked along the way, but the outcome is obvious. Temporary negotiating measures, end result, a much better deal for the US. Tariffs are nowhere near the levels that they're currently at based on the reciprocal tariffs, but much lower. So rather than panicking like an idiot and dumping stocks and being uncertain, I'll think through this logically and see the inevitable outcome. Tell everybody that's what's going to happen before it happens. By the way, I'm on the record. You guys have seen the videos. I've got receipts for days, motherfuckers. And then be ferociously jerking myself off for calling it a month or two later when the first of many deals start flowing through. Let me finish by repeating. Trump has made very clear his intent. He's going to usher in an era of safety, prosperity and opportunity in the United States. These are all equally important. The flood of illegal migrants, unvetted, through the southern border has essentially ceased completely. Safe, boom. Millions of illegal immigrants, criminals, gang members and so on are being deported. Which, by the way, Clinton did, Obama did. There's no talk about that, weird. Safety, tick. That's priority number one, right? Above all else. The next two priorities, in tandem, opportunity and prosperity. If Trump is successful, and I believe he will be, he's got a long, multi-decade track record. I believe, end of his term, his call about buying stocks now and them essentially heading vertical is probably going to be close to on the money. Of course, I'm not dumb enough to think I can time things over the short term, but I am absolutely glad that there was a huge amount of panic when these tariffs were initially announced, because it did provide an excellent buying opportunity. If you're still here, by the way, let me know in the comments below any deals you've negotiated in your personal, professional, or even romantic life. Want more content? Early access? A bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1 year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs.